Today is the first day of early in-person voting in Texas, where voters have a chance to make history by voting for the first winning Democratic candidate for Senate in Texas since 1988, when Lloyd Bentsen won his re-election campaign. Senate Democrats now have high hopes of picking up a Senate seat in Texas, with our next guest, Congressman Colin Allred, running against Republican Senator Rafael Edward Cruz. Here's what Colin Allred had to say after casting his vote today.
It's not really about that to me. This is a different question, which is who's better to serve us for the next 6 years, Ted Cruz or me? We've seen for 12 years how Senator Cruz has served, how he went to Cancun when we needed him most, how he tried to overturn an American presidential election, how he's singularly responsible for this abortion ban here in Texas. I've been the most bipartisan Texan in Congress. I'm the exact opposite. And so while we have a lot of history building up to this is a singular choice for Texans that's a little bit different from what we've had in the past.
And here is some of what Colin Allred had to say in the Senate candidates debate last week.
You can't be for the mob on January 6th and for the officers. You can't. And it's not funny, because you're a threat to democracy. I texted my wife, Allie, who was 7 months pregnant with our son, Cameron, and at home with our son, Jordan, who wasn't yet 2. Whatever happens, I love you. And I took off my suit jacket, and I was prepared to defend the House floor from the mob. At the same time, after he'd gone around the country lying about the election, after he'd been the architect of the attempt to overthrow that election, when that mob came, Senator Cruz was hiding in a supply closet. You're not actually there when people need you, like when the lights went out, when 30 million Texans were relying on a senator to spring into action. He went to Cancun. That's who he is. If you give me the chance to be your United States Senator, I'll never abandon you. Senator Cruz just called himself pro-life. You're not. You're not pro-life. It's not pro-life to deny women care so long that they can't have children anymore. It's not pro-life to force a victim of rape to carry their rapist's baby. It's not pro-life that our maternal mortality rate has skyrocketed up by 56%. That's not pro-life, Senator. So to every Texas woman at home and to every Texas family watching this, understand that when Ted Cruz says he's pro-life, he doesn't mean yours.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Colin Allred. He's the Democratic candidate for Senate in Texas. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. That's very, very powerful stuff from that debate. And I just want to reemphasize the very first part of it that we showed, which was you making the point that you can't be for the mob on January 6th and for the officers. And Ted Cruz laughs at that. And the way you grabbed him on that, saying it's not funny, it's because it's a threat to democracy. That clearly, that part about it's not funny and grabbing at that smile of his was obviously something that happened in the moment.
Yeah, it was. Well, thanks for having me on, Lawrence. And, listen, there was nothing funny about it. And I think he was uncomfortable because I think he knew that I was calling him out on his singular responsibility for being the architect of the attempt to overthrow an American presidential election. And that he knew that in many ways, this election is his accountability. He knows that. And so this is what we have to do here in Texas, is that we have a lot of things to hold Ted Cruz accountable for going to Cancun when we needed him most, for being somebody who never is a part of bipartisan legislation that helps our state, but also for being uniquely damaging to our democracy. And I'm glad I had a chance to call him out in front of 30 million Texans. In the
closing now 14 days of campaigning, is there a single issue in what we just heard from you in that debate? Is there a single issue that you will be stressing more than any other?
Well, Lawrence, I mean, as you know, and we've talked about this over the course of this campaign, this abortion ban in Texas has been horrific. And there have been so many brave Texas women and Texas families who've come forward and told their stories, Amanda Zarowski and Kate Cox and Lauren Miller and Dr. Austin Denard and Taylor Edwards, and I could keep going, because there are so many stories, and they are so incredibly powerful. And we're going to continue to hold Ted Cruz accountable for being responsible for this abortion ban here. But also, as I felt in that debate, and I've been feeling for some time, Ted Cruz is simply too small for Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, and he's too small for our state. His vision for us is too small. And that's why we're going to turn the page. But we need folks' help, and I hope folks will go to colinallred.com and get involved.
You know, I was just reading the maternal mortality statistics in Texas last week, actually, since Roe versus Wade was overturned. And it is just stunning what has happened there. Rachel made the point in the previous hour that all of the major newspapers in Texas are supporting you. They're against Senator Cruz.
Right.
Is the Texas news media covering what has happened in that state after Dobbs in a way that is very clear to voters?
They really are. And, you know, it's the Houston Chronicle that was reporting on that 26,000 Texas women have been forced to give birth to their rapist child. It's these individual stories that have gotten the traction and gotten the coverage, and also because these incredibly strong women came forward and also filed a lawsuit or lawsuits to challenge these laws, that it's put it in front of people. And, you know, Lawrence, over the course of this campaign, I've come in front of a lot of Texans who don't realize how extreme this ban is. You know, they think that there is an exception for rape or incest. No, there's not. They think there's an exception for the health of the mother. It's not for the health of the mother. It's for the life of the mother, which is an incredibly narrow exception. And who's making that determination? It's lawyers, not doctors. And this is outrageous. You know, 20% of OBGYNs in Texas are considering leaving the state. 13% are considering retiring early. And more of the residents who are here are planning on not practicing here to be OBGYNs. We're going to have a huge shortage of folks to actually serve as OBGYNs in our state. We're at the beginning of feeling the impacts of this extreme ban, and we have to reverse it now. And by beating Ted Cruz, we're going to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again. We're going to restore freedom to Texas women.
Congressman Colin Allred on the verge of possibly making political history in Texas. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you.